Welcome, everyone in the United States, Canada, and around the world to another episode of It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast of overcomers and the podcast of interesting and informative guests sharing useful information to better our daily life and mental spirit. I am your host, Ron Rapaport. I would like to take a moment to thank all of our great listeners, viewers on our YouTube channel, sponsors, and supporters for making this podcast such a success. The podcast is being heard on all major platforms. The podcast YouTube channel, It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast Uncut, and the podcast website, it's a wrap with rap.com. My guest today is Lonnie Bedwell. Lonnie is a blind extreme adventure athlete and a National Geographic 2015 Adventure of the Year and author of 226 How I Became the First Blind Person to Kayak the Grand Canyon. And he's also a motivational speaker. He is a testament to resilience, grit, and the pursuit of pushing boundaries. A former Navy petty officer, Lonnie's life changed in 1997 after a hunting accident instantly took his sight. Despite this, he raised three daughters, teaching them to hunt, fish, and incredibly to drive. After his daughters graduated, he turned his attention to challenging himself and soon became one of the world's most recognized blind extreme sports athletes. When told he needed to master 1,000 kayak rows to conquer the Grand Canyon, he rowed his donated kayak 1,500 times in his farm pond. That determination laid the foundation for his historic journey that followed. Lonnie is now on a mission to climb the highest peaks on all seven continents. Lonnie's mission is to inspire others to live boldly and embrace life with confidence. He is a passionate advocate for children and veterans with disabilities, demonstrating that blindness does not define him or limit his capacity to help others thrive. His inspiring story has led to appearances on The Today Show, Steve Harvey, and Breaking Bobby Bones, and he has been featured in the documentary films Field of Vision, Dreamline, Blind, Long River Home, as well as numerous publications. Welcome, Lonnie, to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And first off, I want to thank you for your military service. We all appreciate what you have done for us.
Thank you.
I
That's an
want to
honor.
start out with that right away. Let's get to know you. Can you tell us, our audience, about your childhood and family dynamics? I heard you were somewhat of a mischievous kid.
I didn't know you called my mom and dad.
Well, we do our research around here, Lonnie.
Yeah, I might have been a little bit mischievous for sure growing up, but I grew up in a little town of Pleasantville, Indiana. It's about 6 miles south of here. In population about 75 now. When I was growing up, there was probably about 150 people. I started school in that little town. I think there was 11 people in my class before they shut it down, consolidated, and I went to school, graduated from a local school up here called Duggar, and had a population of about 900 people. I graduated with 34 in my class, I believe. And then I attended college for 2 years for electronics with a robotics option before joining the military. Enlisted in the Navy as a nuclear powered machinist mate, volunteered and was selected for submarine service. And I did 9 years active and then rolled out 3 years in the Army National Guard before I lost my eyesight. Yeah, my mom and dad are both kind of characters, and I have one brother and growing up. And so, yeah, that's a little bit of the basics.
Okay, pretty much normal childhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
We got out and about all the time. Growing up in a little town like we did, shoot, at the age of 11, 12 years old, me and my brother just basically turned loose to go rabbit hunting, fishing, frogging, whatever, our whole lives, and just running around with our buddies and just had fun. It was
Yeah.
quite a different world.
How far are you from Indianapolis?
I'm about 90 miles southwest of Indianapolis.
Okay, 90 miles southwest. I'm pretty familiar with that state. I've driven through it a few times and got caught in a snowstorm a few times too.
Yeah,
You
just
can
had
relate.
yeah, just pretty significant snowstorm. First one we've had this big in in several years.
Well, being from the northern area up further north, I got up the next morning and expected the roads to be plowed. And when they weren't, they said, no, we don't have plows.
Yeah,
But I was in southern Indiana, so maybe down there they don't. I don't know.
yeah, not so
But
much.
yeah, but anyway, so after high school, you joined the Navy, but you also faced some family issues such as divorce and raising two children. Tell us a little bit about that time.
Well, after I lost my eyesight is when I got divorced again. And when you know when an accident happens to you, it happens to everybody. So
Yeah.
there's so many dynamics go on there. But yeah, I ended up with my three girls, raising raising those three girls there, and they were characters, but they were really truly the ones that were instrumental in getting my feet on underneath me and on the ground. I tell a story that's in the book that you mentioned about my youngest daughter, who was 5 years old at the time, helping me mow around my little barn out here. And while I was sitting there struggling, thinking, how am I going to be daddy? What do they think of me? How am I going to do anything? And that happened just a couple of months after the loss of my eyesight. And it really put my feet on the ground. So, well, all these adults were kind of saying, no, 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 don't, we'll do it for you. We'll do it for you. And my daughters were saying, go, go, go. And
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
definitely. And I understand in the bio, you actually taught your daughters how to drive.
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
How
I
did you
have,
do that?
I had an old Ford F-150 pickup truck, four-wheel drive, and I just get in it and put it in the four-wheel low to begin with. There's a little, put it in four-wheel low and put one of them on my lap, and I'd roll the window down so I could hear the rev of the motor and how fast the weeds were going. I'd shift the gears and do the brake and the gas and kind of just listen how fast I was going and let them steer. And as they got older and they got better and could reach the brake and the clutch, they'd start shifting and doing everything. And once they got good enough, we took off down the road. It started, like I said, in this pasture behind my house here. We just
Yeah,
drive pastures. So
yeah.
we got a bumper full of grass every whip stitch, but yeah, it worked.
Well, you didn't take them out on Interstate 65 or anything crazy like that.
Nah,
Now, May 4th, 1997 is a day you're probably never going to forget. Can you tell us what happened that day? I know you were with your friend Tim.
yeah, yeah. And like I said, that little town I was raised in, we lived together our entire lives, around within 3 miles of each other our entire lives. Graduated high school together, just good friends the entire time. He went to the Navy as a corpsman attached to the Marine Recon Unit, and so we both back home after being off of active duty. Was living right here where I live right now, and I'm literally a mile behind my back. We got up on a Sunday morning. Was going to go turkey hunting. I had harvested my first turkey the day before, so I was just going out with him to call. Didn't even have a gun on me, and um, I don't know. I don't think either one of us really realized how it happened. We were separated for me to call, and was kind of supposed to work our way back together. So thick, I didn't even see him anymore than I think he saw me. I don't know, but I was. I knew something was going to happen because all of a sudden, I just felt this presence, this literally this aura enveloped me, and everything went dead quiet. The leaves quit rustling, the wind quit blowing, birds, not, I mean, complete silence. And I just started to crouch and reach up to cover my face when the shot went off. And I think I took a full shotgun blast to his face at about 9 steps. Uh, and they, come over. He was going to pick me up and try to carry me out of there because he was an emergency room nurse at the time too. And he, at the very beginning, I could still talk. And he told me, I asked him when he picked me up, I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'll carry you out of here. I said, you can't. I said, you got to go. He said, well, I said, I can't. You'll be dead before I get back. I said, the only chance I have is for you to go. So then he took and set me down, leaned me against the tree, took his finger, cleared my airway so I could take another breath and ran for help. And I remember sitting there, it got to the point that I was so weak. I lost so much blood. I was so weak that I had to lay down. I scooped a pillow of leaves to try to keep my head above my feet, and I couldn't clear my airway. So I was fortunate enough to be able to break a little piece off of a bush, and uh, I just take and stick that down my throat to clear my airway. And then it got to the point where I was even more weak. I couldn't even do that.
Well,
Thankfully,
just so our audience knows that you were accidentally shot, and it was a shotgun, huh? Wasn't it?
yeah, birdshot, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, turkey load, and anyway, I was sitting there, thankfully was able to never pass out. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened, but um, I was probably there 45 minutes by the time he ran out and called for help, and the ambulances got there. I could hear them coming way off in the distance, and then I had to run in, and you know, uh, they couldn't find me to begin with. There was literally people running right by me, and it's just so thick, and I kind finally kind of remember, I couldn't get up. I thought I was screaming, but one guy stopped right by me, and it was another one of my best friends growing up. The two of them were my two best friends, and um, he stopped right by me, and I was like, okay, finally, he just stood there for a minute, and then finally, I kind of whimpered, he yelled again, I thought, but he told me later it just sounded like a little whimpering puppy.
Huh.
Then when I realized because he thought I was already dead,
Yeah.
and once he figured out I was still alive, he yelled for other help. They put me in a stretcher, took me across these stripper hills to a boat, put me in a boat, took me across the lake to an ambulance. The ambulance took me to the local ball diamond. They put me in a helicopter, and the last thing I remember was they intubated me, and that helicopter took off, and then I woke up at the hospital after surgery. So,
So they
uh,
probably took you to Indianapolis, I would assume,
yeah,
to a traumatic hospital.
yeah,
Uh, just to let everybody know, no animosity towards Tim. It was an accident, and
yeah.
you guys are still friends today, right?
Absolutely, one of the greatest gifts I was ever given in my life was to never have the slightest bit of anger or bitterness toward him, even though he was it himself. And it's
Yeah.
he'll tell everybody that I helped him get through it, which and he says to this day, he says it's a scar. It's not an open wound to him anymore, but it's a scar. But as far as I'm concerned, I hope someday will come that scar goes away because he's a good man and would never have done anything to hurt me. And it was just a sheer accident.
Lonnie, was there a defining moment that led you to believe that you could pick the pieces up and continue to do the things on your own despite your disability?
Yeah, that day I was talking about with my daughter helping me mow around that barn. It really was. I was literally laying on the couch that's in this room right here, and just fighting back tears, thinking about those girls. And 2 months after the accident, I went from weighing 181 pounds to 129, drinking insure shakes like they were candy, and had no mobility training at the time, but had finally got enough strength to get up. And so I went to the closet right over there, took the handle out of the broom, and out the door I went. And that's, like I said, my
This podcast is being brought to you in part by our podcast guest, author, speaker, and TV series creator, Paul Dowdy. Paul has just had his book, Resilience, My Ultimate Superpower, Empowering Young Lives to Overcome Challenges, released and now available from Amazon. This book is a labor of love dedicated to empowering young minds to navigate and overcome life's hurdles with strength and resilience. This book draws inspiration from the true story of Paul Dowdy, who grew up in the tumultuous 1970s, facing childhood domestic violence, abandonment, and the challenges of unsupervised teenage years, having to learn to make adult decisions to stay alive. Paul's candid storytelling and insightful reflections highlight the pivotal moments that shaped his life. The book teaches us that resilience isn't just about bouncing back, it's about growing stronger with each challenge faced. This is so important for our young people to know. Paul's journey exemplifies how we can harness our inner strength, maintain a positive mindset, and see beyond immediate struggles to embrace a life of resilience and empowerment. The book focuses on helping young adults and is a must read for the 14 to 18 age set, parents, mentors, and educators to read and get a fresh perspective on the challenges our youth face from the digital landscape, academic stress, peer pressure, depression, and anxiety, just to name a few covered in the book. With statistics such as 44% of teens feeling persistently sad and hopeless, 40% feeling lonely, 29% experiencing poor mental health, depression, and anxiety, and only 35% of struggling teens seeking help, it is imperative that the book be read and understood. Paul's book is so special that it is going to be made into a TV drama series based on his life. Resilience, My Ultimate Superpower, Empowering Young Lives to Overcome Challenges, is available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle formats from Amazon. Information about the book will be listed in the podcast notes.
My daughter, I could go into the story if you want me to. It'll take about 6, 7 minutes for me to tell it, but that's up to you.
Well, I know I know it's a story where I believe you went to cut the lawn, right?
Yeah, she helped me. Yeah, yeah. I couldn't get in my little barn because weeds were up to my chest, and she helped me get all out there on the lawnmower and get me out there and mow around that barn, and that made me realize, okay,
And she had a inspirational
yeah,
message
yeah,
she gave
I am
you.
still daddy, absolutely. Like I knew right then and there that to my three girls, I was still daddy. I was still the man, and I tell everybody, they changed my vision more than the loss of my eyesight ever did. They allowed me to see light in the darkness, and they were the ones telling me, get up off your knees, daddy. Stand
Yeah,
up. Get up
yeah.
off your knees and step. Get up because you can.
For people out there with a disability, do you have any advice for them
Yeah.
on how to manage a marriage with a disability? What kind of dynamic does that play into the marriage, with
Well, I don't
that
know if
type of
I'd
thing?
be good at giving advice on it because, like I said, mine fell apart. But I think I think the aspect is what I said earlier is the fact that when something like that happens to you, it doesn't just happen to you. It happens to everybody,
Right.
and everybody needs support. Everybody needs help. I wasn't smart enough to realize that at the time. My girls were hurting. Everybody was hurting. My mom and I mean, everyone around me was
Sure,
hurting.
sure.
And so I really think, reach out to each other. Let everybody know really what's going on. Let everyone know some of those emotions. And I'm talking to the caregivers here more so than the people with the disability. And then once again, the people with the disability realize, yeah, you're the one in it. And you got to overcome these things, but you're not the only one in it. Try to give everyone a little bit of grace because they don't know sometimes. I'm the first blind person that we'd ever met, except for elderly people, and people don't know what they don't know. And
Right.
don't feel weak to reach out. Don't feel like it makes you less of a person to reach out. I tell people, in my personal opinion, I call them all emotions. There's three things I think that hold us all back, all of us, every person back more than any: foolish pride, fear, and pity. Foolish pride, there's nothing wrong with being proud of who you are, of some of the things you do, but pride becomes foolish when you cannot humble yourself to reach out for a hand up, not a handout, a hand up.
Right.
And, there's nobody ever got to where they're at in this world without somebody helping them, teaching them, guiding them along the way. Nobody.
You got that right. You got
And
that right. We do a lot of podcasts with veterans. And one big part of the problem is, there's a very high suicide rate right now. I'm sure you're aware of it. And part of the problem is a lot of these veterans are just too proud to ask for help, or they feel asking for help is a sign of weakness.
Mm.
And we have to change that perception for our veterans being discharged, uh,
Yeah.
because a lot of them are just they come from military backgrounds, and they've been told to suck it up, and get up and keep moving. And sometimes you just can't do that. You need help.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, kind of going on with that, what I was saying, that foolish pride to me leads to that fear, FEAR, false
Yeah,
evidence reality. People don't want to ask for that help because one, they're afraid they might get made fun of. They might, think that people will think you're not the man you used to be. They
right.
might think you're weak. Or you might think you're going to get hurt, which I've come to really find out that's not the truth. People, no, people want to help. People want to extend their help. You know, and if there are those few, very few, if there are those few that want to make fun, that's their issue, not yours. The vast majority of people truly want to help and they want to help see you succeed. And then that last thing, that both that foolish pride and fear leads into the worst one of all is pity. I like to say PITY, poor information to yourself. You know, I'm not a man because I'm blind. I'm
Yeah,
not a man because of this. I'm
silly.
not. And it's so false. I literally had a conversation with my dad here not too long ago, who's 80 years old. And he's like, well, I'm not the man I used to be. And I said, nope, thankfully you're not, but you're a better man or you're just as good a man as you always were. And I
Sure.
said,
And you know what, Lonnie? It takes courage, more courage to get up and ask for help than it does just to be foolish about it and not ask for help.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Uh,
like a hand up, not a handout, that hand up.
exactly. Exactly. A hand up. That'll hand out. Now, tell us about the Veterans Administration and other organizations you reached out to, I guess after many years of doing a lot of tasks on your own. I mean, I understand you were doing roofing, you were doing construction. Uh, Tell us about those organizations that you reached out to. What did they
Well,
do for you?
yeah, I didn't go to a blind rehab center, which was very foolish of me. I didn't go to a blind rehab center until my youngest daughter graduated high school, 14 years after losing my eyesight.
Yeah,
And once I got there, I was like, okay, I need to learn how to be a little more independent because then now it's going to be completely on my own here at the house. And I was like, okay, I need to learn technology. I need to learn, even though I was doing a lot of this stuff, I needed to learn more. Well, I go up there and I find out, this phone that I'm using, I can get introduced to a lot of things. But then while I was up there, that's when I got introduced to adaptive sport. They knew that I had gotten into building these houses. That's something I didn't do before I lost my eyesight. I do anything from the ground up, framing, roofing, wiring, you name it. And I was using chainsaws. So they literally asked me, said, we know blind people snow ski. We've never did it here as a recreational outing up here at the Hines Blind Rehab Center. Will you be our guinea pig? We need to find something for these younger veterans to do. And I said, twist my arm. So thankful that they asked me to do that because then it led to kayaking, it led to rock climbing, it led to mountain, and opened up this life I would never have dreamed I could have lived or be a part of it. And now, it just expands. It's just amazing. And then you got like the Blind Veterans Association, that I got introduced to after that. They're through them, they're out here doing a lot of stuff through Congress and legislation, trying to find ways to help us, with prosthetics. And for example, the iPhone is a prosthetic for a blind veteran.
yeah,
So, they'll through the VA, they'll purchase your iPhone for you. And, that's just huge, and it's just so there's so many organizations out there that just truly are doing their best. We've got hiccups, everyone says, and there's you got people.
uh, um, we're not getting your voice coming through. Lonnie, we're not getting your voice coming through.
skills, these manual skills, and
Okay, can
and it
you,
costs you a
Lonnie,
dime.
we had a little technical problem. We weren't getting your voice coming through. Go
Okay.
ahead, just if you could back up a few seconds.
Yeah, I said, so you go like to the blind rehab center. You can go to the blind rehab center and you can learn these manual skills, these living skills, mobility skills, technology, and it doesn't cost you a dime to go in.
Yeah. Why did it take you so long to find these organizations? Was it just you didn't know they existed or
Well, in my case, there was a little bit of time there I didn't know that it existed, and there are a lot of veterans out there that lose their eyesight later in life due to, glaucoma, whatever eye disease, and they don't know it exists. They don't have that option. But
yeah,
also, in my case, I was too stubborn. I was raising my girls. I thought I got to be here. These girls are raised to where if I truly would have taken 6 weeks out of my life back then earlier,
yeah.
I could have been a whole lot more helpful to my daughters than what I even was. I truly do. And it's, man,
Well, hopefully there's people out there listening to this podcast who can take this, this advice from you and take that time and go wherever they have to go in the VA administration and get the help.
yeah.
Uh, now, yeah, let's go to the next one. Yeah. I would like to encourage you to embark on a transformative journey through the #1 Amazon bestseller, our podcast guest and supporter, Gina Economopoulos, who has authored the book titled Shake the Dust Off Your Feet and Walk, which is a stirring memoir tracing Gina's path from despair to redemption. From Gina's humble beginning as a bartender to the sacred halls of the convent and through the trials of tumultuous relationships and alcoholism, Gina grapples with loss of faith, grief, and the pursuit of self discovery. With honesty and authenticity, the readers witness her quest to reclaim her life amidst chaos. You will be drawn into the landscape of her struggles, from the agonizing decision to leave the convent after 12 years of service to the numbing embrace of alcoholism. Every step of her journey is fraught with uncertainty and pain. Through resilience and determination, that she acquires, Gina begins the process of healing, letting go of the past and making new connections in the present. This book is more than just a memoir, it is a testament to the power of the human spirit to find healing in faith, time, and self discovery. Her story serves as a reminder that however challenging the road ahead may seem, there is always hope waiting to be discovered in the most unlikely of places. Buy the book and let Gina's words inspire you to confront your own struggles with grace and resilience and emerge stronger on the other side. This is a book so powerful, a movie could be made about it. You will not be disappointed buying this book. The book is available from Amazon in paperback and Kindle formats. Details will be listed in the podcast notes. Okay, for people with disabilities, what is your philosophy for family members or loved ones in regard to, quote, protecting them from getting hurt or keeping them confined inside walls? In other words, I'm sure you experienced this where family members said, "No, Lonnie, don't do that. You could get hurt or you could fall down or whatever." What's your philosophy on that?
I love to talk to caregivers because my philosophy is if somebody was to take their child unjustly for something that child had no control over, didn't do anything, and throw them in a jail cell and get ready to slam and lock that door of that jail cell, I always asked him, I said, wouldn't you do everything you could to prevent that from happening? And the answer I always get is, well, yes, I would. So then my comment to them is, okay, why are you? If your loved one has a chance to experience life, to live this life, no matter how scary it might be to you or how scary it might be to them at times, or just whatever, why not leave that door open and take a chance? You know, I don't care who you are. Every single person, we don't know if we're going to see tomorrow. We
Right.
don't. We walk out that door if we might get hurt. You know, it's like a blind person not walking out the door because they might get bit by a dog that might not even be there. You can't live your life in fear. You can't. You have to just live your life. And like I said, if your loved one has a chance to live their life, why not let them live their life and help them? Open that jail cell, open that door, keep that door open, and see what you can experience with them.
Now, Lonnie, you get introduced to the organization Team River Runner. Uh, Tell us about them and how that led you to kayak the Whitewater Rapids on the Colorado River in the Grand Canyon. And for our audience, get this, Lonnie only had 14 days of whitewater training, and he's the first person to kayak 226 miles over 16 days, never done before. And let me explain, the rapids are from levels 1 to 6 with a terrain loaded with scorpions and red ants. Tell us about that.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean, I've done level 3 and 4, but when I hear 5 and 6, that's when I say I don't think so.
yeah. Well, let me step back a little bit too. On the levels on the Grand Canyon has its own way of making levels on the rapids. It's the only place like that.
Okay.
So a level 6 on the Grand Canyon is really like about a level 3. Uh,
Oh, okay.
out in the real world, if you will, or on other rivers. But there are some rivers. I think the Grand Canyon's about a 3.5 if you'd go somewhere else. On at least most of what my experience. It's just massive. It's just massive, and the massive and the size of them. But
Well,
uh,
now you just gave me the inspiration to do this.
absolutely, and it's crazy. Some people might say it's a little more than that, level 4-ish. A couple of them on there that they might say is a level 4, maybe a little, but yeah, that's about where it's at. And I would absolutely recommend the Grand Canyon to blind. As a matter of fact, I encourage 4 others to join me on the last trip, blind veterans. So, but how it started was I was at the Disabled American Veterans Winter Sports Clinic in Somas, Colorado, in I think it was 2011.
Uh-huh.
Myself and another friend were walking around and we heard about this organization, Team River Runner, having kayaks in the swimming pool. So we just went to check it out. And when we got there, they told us that if you guys can do, one of these combat or Eskimo rolls, the first time you get in the pool, we'll give you a free T-shirt. So we got into kayaks and tried, and finally we did. And both of us actually won a T-shirt. Well, that led me to being invited to what they call the Out of Sight Clinic up in Montana on the Yellowstone River.
Okay.
And second year the program was there, and I was the second, I think, blind person to go up there and try this. And there might have been, I can't remember, there were some others with us on that trip, but I just kind of got into it. And so while I was sitting at the airport after that event, I was talking to the executive director, Joe Mornini. While I was sitting there, and he said, Lonnie, he said, how would you like to be the blind veteran to kayak the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon? And I thought, wow, what a vision. And in me, it instilled a dream. And so I just come home and I called a friend of mine who donated me, got the kayak that I brought here at the house and the paddle, a helmet, life jacket, spray skirt. And then Joe called me a few months after that and said, hey, Lonnie, we're going to do a kayaking trip this next summer. Why don't you join us and ride through it in a raft just to kind of get a feel for it? I told him, I said, I don't want to do that, Joe. I said, I don't want to do it in a raft. That'll scare the crap out of me. I want to do it in my own kayak. And that's when he laughed at me and said, he said, you need to do at least 1,000 of those rolls and you need more experience. And like, as you said earlier, I dragged the kayak down to the pond, started doing the rolls. I quit counting at 1,500. I have no idea how many I really did. But then I went down to Charlotte, North Carolina, to the Whitewater Center down there with a friend to get some experience. And while I was there, I met a gentleman named Pablo McCambus, who was an Olympic Chilean paddler who Joe Mornini just happened to teach how to kayak. And
Wow.
I said, he asked me what I was doing. I said, I'm trying to get experience so I can do the Grand Canyon. And he told me, he said, I think you can do most of it right now, just after watching you. I said, you got to call Joe and tell him. So I called Joe. He told him. Joe convinced the board to let me have a shot. And as they say, the rest is history.
Yeah, and from what I understand, people have tried this and some people didn't make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that
Yeah.
happens, I guess. Yeah.
You
Now,
know,
let me
and like you said, the red ants and the rattle
scorpions.
scorpions. Yeah, I got bit by some of them red ants. Man, it hurt.
Oh yeah. I've been
Yeah,
bitten by red ants. I know exactly what you mean. When they bite, you're getting out of there real fast.
yeah, yeah,
What was your family's feeling about you doing this? And what reason did you give them for trying to do it? Uh, like I said, keep in mind people who could see were having problems doing this.
yeah. My I know when before I went, my family they asked me, said, Lonnie, said of all the things you've done, and why do you have to do this? Why?
Yeah, yeah,
I told them, and I said, I'm going to be guided by all these other disabled veterans, combat injured veterans. I said, they give me everything they had, not just our country, but they gave me everything they had. And they give me the right and the freedom to go try this. So they give me their best. They deserve my best. I said, every paddle stroke I make, no matter how far I make it through this, every paddle stroke I make is an effort to try to help pay them back just a little bit for what they sacrificed for me. Never can repay them for what they done, but just a little bit.
Brian Haidt is a modern day Renaissance man, seamlessly integrating Eastern and Western philosophies to empower individuals to overcome mental barriers and achieve peak performance. He has diverse expertise as a Hollywood stuntman featured in television shows and films such as Superman, Haunted Mansion, The Iron Claw, Stranger Things, and The Cleaning Lady, to name just a few. And he is also a performance psychologist, author, and certified mental performance consultant, making him a sought-after authority in unlocking human potential. Brian's book, Begin Again, utilize the wisdom of Eastern and Western ideologies to achieve your full potential, is a collection of 183 short essays on topics gleaned from a range of sources spanning both miles and millennia. Each essay highlights a familiar challenge such as failure or stress. Reading the book, you will discover the importance of the present moment, the ways in which our thoughts affect our emotions and behaviors, ways to develop and maintain confidence and motivation, strategies for maximizing overall well-being, simple techniques that make a dramatic impact on the quality of our personal, professional, social, and family lives. The book will guide you how to free yourself from the counterproductive thought patterns that have unconsciously been impacting your quality of life and why you think what you think, do what you do, and teach you how to leverage that knowledge for the benefit of yourself and those around you. The daily challenges we face in today's modern culture seem unique to our current place in history, but they are not. This book explores that idea while guiding you in overcoming those challenges daily. To quote Brian, every day we begin again. Every day is an opportunity for growth, development, change, and improvement. Every moment is a chance to assess our current circumstances and steer our thoughts and actions in more helpful, productive directions. Buy the book, Unlock Your Full Potential, and find the wisdom inside of you. The book is available from Amazon in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle format. Information about the book will be listed in the podcast notes.
To say thank
And I'm sure they said, okay, go for it.
you. Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, there was one of the rapids was going through Crystal, and once we ran through the rapid, we ran the rapid, we got to the bottom of it. The lead guide at the time's named Alex Nielsen. He came over to me and he said, "Hey," he said, "I want to let you know, Joe told me not to let you run this rapid." I said, "Under no circumstance am I to let you run this rapid." He said, "Even if you want to." I said, "So why did you?" He said, "Because we could."
Right,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right.
And I'll never forget when we got to camp the very last night, that very last night on the river, we had just 4 miles of calm water to finish paddling. But we got to the camp and, they were all congratulating me. Said, "Hey, congratulations, you're the first to ever do this." And I said, "Thank you." I said, "It's cool to be able to say, yeah." But I said, "You're wrong." I said, "We were the first to ever do this. And it's absolutely meaningless and irrelevant if we can't find a way to pay it forward." And that's my passion. And I truly mean that. And just to try to, like I said, keep that door on that jail cell open.
Yeah.
And
That was very humbling that you did that. You had a team of three people guiding you. Tell us about them and how they gave you the commands to stay safe.
yeah, yeah, there was really four that three main ones and one guy that's kind of helping out their safety boat and so if around as well. But all four of them, I think about just those guys. Alex, like I said, Alex Nielsen, was also a corpsman, Navy corpsman, attached to a unit and was in some incidents over there in the war. And actually, he lost a comrade of his on one of their missions who lived, who was originally from Brazil, Indiana, about 45 miles from here. Didn't know that until we got talking. And I've had the pleasure of meeting that young man's family. And but he is now, married and married Joe's daughter, as a matter of fact. And I actually had the honor and privilege of officiating their wedding.
Oh, wow.
And he's a doctor out in Portland, or out in Oregon somewhere now. I don't said Portland, but he's a doctor out there in Oregon now. And then just I say, a couple of these guys are just, I describe them all as kind of mild mannered badasses, just and then you had Chip Sale, an army officer, just had a little bit of a traumatic brain injury and just a dynamic paddler, and just this laugh that you can just never get rid of. And I think about how good he was at paddling, and he saved me so many times, And like I said, he'd take the lead on occasion, and but then most of the time he's behind me. And I'll never forget this one day. I didn't realize at the time why I couldn't stay up, but when my thigh braces broke in that boat,
Ah.
and I couldn't stay up. I had no balance. I couldn't roll up. I was just like, "What's going on here?" Well, he just kept, hand of God rescuing me, rolled me out, but he was just, he's, all of them. They got your six. They've got your six. And I think he lives out in Idaho. Him and his wife and beautiful daughter live out there. He just gives back to so many people. Gives back to himself. And then you had Mike Bradley and Mike Plord. Mike Bradley, and I got to tell this a little bit of the story because they were both in the van when they picked me up at the airport. And Mike told me, he said he's pretty Mike, and I said, okay. Mike Bradley did. So I called the other one Mike Plorin. He's a bigger guy. I said, "Oh, so I'll just call you and that nickname stuck, which stands for Ugly Mike." So I call them up today. They're pretty Mike and ugly and but but amazing, amazing, amazing. Both of them also combat injured and stuff, and Bradley with all of them with amazing stories of
Yeah, they
heroism and
sound like just amazing, amazing people. Lonnie, what were your impressions of the Grand Canyon and the river uh, from your sense of smell, touch, and hearing? What was your impression of it?
It was just when I first got on the water, it was like, holy crap, what did I just get myself into? Because it's far the biggest, pushiest water I'd ever been on, the volume, and then, but it's just a magical, magical, magical place. And I hope they can never get permission to go in there and build casinos like they wanted to. And it's just, just like you said, the smells, it's got its own smell and its own feel when you're in there. You can get on the river and then you can go on some of these little side canyon hikes, and it's just like no place I've ever been before. Just something about being there. It just puts you in this different frame of mind and this sense of awe. Just
Yeah,
wow. And and the way, and I had so many people just describe to me the colors and stuff, and it's just, and then it closes in, and you can feel that, you can just feel it close in these massive walls, and then you can feel it open up, and just it's it's just
yeah,
something I
it,
would love, I wish everybody could experience.
yeah. It sounds so exciting. Now, the journey was 226 miles, and there were good and not so good days. So, what was the happiest moment, and what was the scariest moment?
The happiest moment was uh, probably the last day once we done it. Once we really, I mean, there were so many moments. I mean, I can think of going to the first big rapid, and they said, okay, you're going to drop in, and I got swept to the side and sent through this hole, and it kind of flipped in, and churned a little bit, and rolled up, and I lost my guides, and then they're screaming, so I could hear them way off, and they just started paddling, paddling. I got down to them, everyone was screaming, and it's like, okay, we really might do this. It's called House Rock, and it's on like day one, day two, and we really realized that we could do this. And then some of the scariest moments was right, like I said, when I first got on the river, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" And I can remember telling them, I said, "I don't know if I can roll in this." And Pete Wynn was one of the guys on the trip. He said, "You get in this first little rapid here, so intentionally flip upside down and see if you can do it." I'm like, "I'm going to get flipped enough. I don't need to do it on purpose." And so they convinced me into doing it. And I can remember I said, okay, when I get down the right spot, Chip, he yelled out, he said, I'm behind you, man. I got you. And he said, I said, okay, just yell out when you want me to flip. And he did. And I remember being scared to death. And I rolled over and was able to flip up. And I was like, all right, and then going into some of the bigger rapids, Crystal Hands, Lava, and just hearing this that massive, massive roar, and I always describe this like, okay, here comes the music, here comes the
Yeah.
music.
It must have
I,
been, is it kind of like a roller coaster ride there? Or?
and then some, in my opinion.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah, some of them are
I
definitely.
know it can be scary. I mean, I was on rapids up in Tennessee, and our guy got thrown out, and then it was like, uh-oh, what do we do now?
Yeah,
Anyway, he finally got to us. Uh, what did that journey teach you about yourself and the people in your life?
it taught me to swallow that foolish pride more so. It taught me what we are capable of. It taught me the importance of relationships. It taught me, like I said, endurance, not to give up. It taught me just, yeah, like I said, I think the most important thing is probably the meaning and the power of relationships, and what can we not do if we simply unite for a common goal and help each other. And uh, what was the other half of that question? What did it teach me about the other one?
No, you answered it. What did it teach you about yourself and about the people in your life?
Oh yeah, yeah. And the people in my life, it's like I said, their our value to each other. You know, we need each other. We all do. I don't care. There is not a human being walking on the face of this earth that, if you took the word at its core, could not be considered disabled, not able. There's not a human being in this world that is able to do everything. We all have our limitations.
Right, right.
Why we all need each other. I don't care who you are.
Now, Lonnie, uh, why did you write the book 226, How I Became the First Blind Person to Kayak the Grand Canyon? And what do you hope that the readers will take away from reading the book?
Well, I wrote it really because I was really kind of pressured into it, to be quite honest with you. I met a gentleman that was, helped me, and then, I dictated it, put it to, and the other gentleman put it to print, and I spent about 9 months editing it and putting it back. But, it was like they really convinced me that people needed to hear the story of resilience and the story like I said, relationships and what we can do. And that's kind of why I wrote it, and kind of why I hope people will read it, is to really look in there and to not only just my voice in the book. It's, I think, what makes the book is the other people's voices, the stories that they tell within the book. And
Yeah. Yeah, I read the book. It's a great book. I recommend it to everybody. It's just an awesome book.
thank you.
And what new challenges are you currently involved in? I know you're the kind of guy that just doesn't sit around on your duff now that you did that. Tell the audience what you're up to now.
What I hope to do is complete what they call the Explorers Grand Slam, and that is to climb the highest peak in all 7 continents and then ski to both the North and South poles. And that portion has not been done by a blind person yet. Eric Weinmeier has climbed the 7 summits, but and I'm sure he'd be the first one to applaud to try to take it to another level, and that's to add on that ski to the North and South poles as well.
Okay, so you would be the first.
Yeah.
That's another book.
But I don't know, so
Well, that sounds exciting. I know you said you just got back from being in what in the Antarctic?
Antarctica. Yeah, yeah, in the Antarctica. As far as I know, I think we were the first ones to. There's been a couple blind people ski to the South Pole. There's been blind people climb that summit, but as far as they know, there's not been one that's done both of them. And so we've kind of got that out of the way. So hopefully, this April,
Uh-huh.
we'll go to the North Pole, and then sometime throughout this year, we'll finish climbing the other 2 summits.
Okay. Well, we'll have to have you back on the podcast when we'll talk about your mountain climbing.
Yeah,
How's that sound?
that sounds awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Lonnie, if people want to get a hold of you, how can they contact you?
They can contact me through my website at lonniebedwell.com. Uh,
Okay.
and it's through there. Quite honestly, I don't care. I'll give people out my email, lonnie.r.bedwell. If they're wanting me for a speaking engagement, it's at Gmail. If they're just wanting me for private, just other stuff, it's at att.net. So in both cases, it's lonnie.r.bedwell. And like I said, for speaking at Gmail, and otherwise at att.net. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll give out my phone number as well. I don't care. It's 812-691-0446. 812-691-0446. And they
Okay.
can follow along on the Facebook page as well. So,
Okay. And you speak all over the country, I would imagine.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
Uh,
actually done presentations in Hong Kong.
so international.
Yeah.
Well, this
Yeah.
podcast goes all over the world, Australia, New Zealand,
Oh, yeah.
Europe, we're everywhere. So,
I'll
uh,
travel anywhere. So there you go.
yeah, there you go. Now, Lonnie, For those out there struggling with whatever adversities they may be encountering, what is your advice to get them to a better place?
To break that adversity down, first and foremost, I love acronyms. To break it down, ADVERSITY. The hardest part is always the A and the D. Acknowledging that it's different and difficult. But it starts with that. And it's not comparing either. I don't care. You don't compare, well, they're worse than me. That acknowledge it. It's happening to you. It's real. No matter how big, how small, it starts with, okay, this is what's going on. And yeah, it stinks. I'm blind. It stinks. But, and once you get that to where you can say, but, then it gives you the power to do the VER. Visualize every route that you can take. And then it gives you the S, what my daughter's told me, the strength to stand up and to step to where the ITY into your future, the life you can still live, the differences you can still make. Starts right there. Acknowledge it.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. And everybody out there can take that one to the bank. Uh, Lonnie, I want to thank you for being on the podcast and sharing your story with us and giving us all a lift in spirit. Just listening to you. Again, thank you for your service, your military service. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you on the podcast. I look forward to having you come back and tell us about your adventures climbing because I want to hear about that.
All right.
And once again, thank you and God bless you and please stay happy and healthy.
Yeah. And as you can tell, he has. So, and thank you all. And thanks for this opportunity and thanks for the platform and to all the listeners out there. Yeah. Thank you all.
Well, you're more than welcome. Comments and suggestions for the podcast, you can email me at it's a wrap with rap@gmail.com. Our Facebook group is It's a Wrap with Rap. A couple thousand people in there, so it's a private group. If you want to join and you're on Facebook, just go to It's a Wrap with Rap and or email me and I'll get you in. Instagram, It's a Wrap with Rap podcast. X, we are on X. That's at Rapper, WRAPPER 130. Our website is it's a wrap with rap.com. And our YouTube channel, all the episodes are on YouTube. It's a Wrap with Rap, the podcast uncut. I want to thank everyone for listening or viewing. I want everyone to please stay safe. And for now, it's a wrap.